Okay, I can also get an efficiency reading with this unit. I'm getting a reading before dilution air. This dilution air would cool down my flue gases, which would make it look like it's more efficient. That's why I'm reading my efficiency from up inside here. I'm getting a 76% efficient. This is combustion efficiency, and which is not the same as AFUE, but it's a pretty good indicator of where this unit's got a 538 degree stack temperature. Should get pretty close to the same reading in the hole right next to it, and I am right around 75–76% efficient. Okay, one thing I want to point out on the fan that we're going to be working on now is a couple things. One is these belt-driven fans need to be oiled usually. There's a little oil port up on the bearing. That little thing I just cleaned off there. I don't know if you can see that. And then there's also one on the back side. So what we do is we put a few drops of 30 weight oil in there, and that lubricates our bearings. We're going to pull this whole fan assembly out, and we'll have to pull this motor off. One of the things we do when we put it back together is we have to set the tension of this fan belt, and we don't want it too tight. The rule of thumb is if from center to center of the pulleys, we want about 3/4 of an inch of play right here for every foot distance between the pulleys. So this is a little over a foot, so I want to see at least 3/4, and it's set about where it should be set right now. The wider we go, the more play we have right here. Okay, so now we're going to pull the blower assembly out. We're going to take the motor off. We need to clean this gunk out of here, so we'll take the motor off, take it outside. We got a compressor out there and blow all this gunk out of here. Oil the unit, 30 weight oil in the oil ports, and then we're going to also look up inside the heat exchanger to make sure we don't see any cracks up in there. One thing we want to make sure is the power shut off before we start messing with any of this stuff here. Okay, one of the things I want to check on my motor is for slack. I can have a little linear movement, but perpendicular to the shaft I don't want any movement, and so I have this thing's pretty tight right here. So I think and then also I want to look for my ratings of my motor on here, because when I hook this thing back up, I want to make sure that I'm not pulling too many amps. Okay, this is 5.1 amps is what I should be reading. It's a 1/4 horse, and I write all that down. If I get my belt too tight, or if for some reason my pulleys were the wrong size, I tend to run at a higher amperage, which will wear out my motor. It won't run efficient, it won't last very long. So when I put this back in, I'm going to check my amperage, make sure that I'm 5.1 or real close to 5.1 amps. The other thing is I want to look at the belt, look for cracks, any problems with the belt. This belt looks pretty good. Doesn't have any cracks in it, doesn't look too wore. If I'm going to work on this in the future, it might be nice to know what my belt size is, so I would record my belt. I got a 1/2 inch here, and then I record all the way around and get the circumference of my belt, and that way I know. Okay, I pulled the 2 screws out for this blower assembly. Now I should be able to pull the whole blower out and take a look at it. So you can see here's the pulley that the belt runs on. Here's where we oil it, right here. We'll just put a little bit of 30 weight oil in there. This side also has a place where we can oil this bearing. And you can see it's not real dirty. There's some little bit of stuff here, but this isn't real bad. Definitely see worse. We'll just clean this up a little bit. Got a little bit of stuff here. If it was real bad, we might take this to the car wash and use some hot soapy water and spray these fins and get all this dirt out of these fins. It's not real bad, but it also wouldn't hurt to clean it. The unit will run a little more efficient. Okay, now I can use a mirror, my flashlight. I gotta make sure my mirror's clean, and I can get a view up into my heat exchanger and see and look for cracks. And quite frankly, for me, the easiest way is to climb in here and actually look up in at my heat exchanger. If I can fit in there and it's not too dirty for me, I'll look up in here. And this actually looks very clean. Okay, so I can use my compressed air to... Never want to do this in the house, it'll make a total mess, but I can clean a lot of this fairly easily with compressed air. See, it'll actually take the dirt off the fins. Alright, let's just get this thing back in its rail. Nice part about this job is you get to stand on your head once in a while. Okay, so you can feel the tension. I don't have it too tight. I got about 3/4, a little over 3/4 of an inch of slack on here, and I'm about a little over a foot away. So I want to also, if I have adjustment side to side, which in this case I don't, I would make sure they're lined up. The pulleys are lined up straight in a line. All right, we'll go ahead and put our filter in at this point. now that we have a bracket that should hold the filter in place and it's not completely dirty, it's not going to suck it up to the motor. And now we'll go ahead and turn it on, and we'll get our heat, or we'll measure the amp draw on our motor. And then right after that, we'll get our heat rise across our furnace. So I put it on AC amps, and I got my wire split right here. And the number we were looking at was 5.1. We're just a hair over that, so I think we have a really good smooth running motor right here. And it's not pulling too many amps, so that looks good. We'll go ahead and put our cover back on so we get our true airflow, because we were sucking a lot of air through there. Things sound a lot quieter now than they did earlier. Okay, at 5 minutes we'll have steady state, and that's when we get our temperature rise. We go ahead and watch it as it climbs up. Before it was cycling on high limit, and now that we've done all of our work, I'm pretty sure it's not going to cycle on high limit anymore, because we have good airflow. That filter was pretty plugged. And we're going to have a tuned up furnace here. It's still climbing pretty high. It's a very hot running furnace. So basically about 80 and 190. So we have a pretty high heat rise here, 110 still. So the next step is we go out and see if we have registers that are closed, because that is climbing pretty high. Okay, we're at our 5 minute heat rise. We were at 230 before, and it's hanging right around 200 now, which is still fairly high. I mean, it's 200 over here, 80 over here. We have a 120 degree heat rise. 80 is as high as we want to see. So this could use a little more airflow, but we did make a difference. We cut it down from 230. It was cycling on high limit, and now it's not going to cycle on high limit anymore. It's able to get rid of all the heat that it's creating out to the house, rather than this thing getting real hot and shutting off. So by changing the air filter, we also did open a register here and there that were closed to get the air flowing through here. So basically, we got to plug this hole up, but our unit, this needs to be changed, and need to have this fixed. Although, you know, we did all this work, there's not a safety issue with this. However, this thing is getting at an age where it's probably about time to change it out. It's 35 years old. It's definitely on the end of the life cycle. It's 75% efficient. If possible, we could be putting in a 90%er. But there is not a safety issue, except for this fluid needs to be fixed. At this point in time, we were able to fix the gas pressure, got rid of the CO. We don't have as high of a heat rise. It's not cycling on high limit anymore. So it takes a little bit of work, but when it's all said and done, this thing's burning better and using less energy and heating the house better than it was before we got here.
Well, that's it for another episode of WXTV. A special thanks to Mike for sharing all of his knowledge about heating systems. And to all of you, thanks for watching.
WXTV, your online source for weatherization information, techniques, and expert advice.